Hello out there, this is Shane Lambert, a freelance writer at movietvtechgeeks.com. Just want to take a look at one of my recent articles that did alright. It's called Jim Carrey on Kathy Griffin and Smothers Brothers Flashback. So that should have an S at the end right there. Basically, I took a look at the situation with Kathy Griffin, who you'll remember from about a week ago showed a decapitated Donald Trump head, all bloody and violent, and it looks like her career is not going to be the same anymore. So I took a look at that, and I looked at what Jim Carrey said on the matter, and he said that comedians are the last voice of truth. I don't know, I didn't really like that statement, to be honest. It's like, if you're going to talk about the last voice of truth, comedians, they got their punchlines. They can make true statements for sure, and they can even point out certain facts. In fact, a lot of comedy is just revealing hypocrisy if you look at a lot of it. But he's really kind of glorifying himself because he's a comedian. I would never regard comedians as the last voice of truth. It's more like your kind of fringe, tortured professors or, human rights activist type. So I said, it's like George Orwell. I say down here. The backdrop of comedy adds too much frivolousness for them to be considered the last voice of truth in society. So let's not put comedians in the same boat as someone like George Orwell. When you're talking about the last voice of truth, you're talking about people who lose their freedom or get absolutely torched by the mainstream press for what they say. Someone like Noam Chomsky could be the last voice of truth. But comedians, I'm not saying that they can't expose certain facts, but they're not that heroic. So I didn't really like what Jim Carrey had to say on the matter. These guys in this picture here, that's the Smothers brothers. I just made a comparison between them and Kathy Griffin. The similarity is that they're comedians who criticized the president. So the Smothers brothers, that was LBJ, who was after JFK, so Johnson. And it hurt their careers. The situations certainly are not perfectly analogous, but I thought there was something to point out there. So I say young readers might not know about a comedy duo called the Smothers Brothers, but they were a politically left-leaning comedy duo from the late 1960s that both lampooned and criticized the President of the United States in the Vietnam War. They faced censorship, and as a result, despite popularity, they had their show canceled amidst political pressure. Over the long term, they became heroes. So I say I wouldn't equate the situation. However, there is a similarity that criticizing the president can cost you dearly in your career. With Griffin, I think she definitely made a miscalculation, and she's losing her CNN gig and stuff like that as a result. I look at what the symbolism of the president's head could be. I don't know how I feel sometimes about it, and therein lies the problem. It's not so much that she's being punished for free speech here, for exercising free speech. It's more has to do with market forces. Like if this had to do with free speech, then she would be being imprisoned, or maybe even killed for what she did. Now that's not happening to her. She's losing work, but that we're talking about market forces there, labor market forces there. And it's just like anybody who decides to take a stand. On the one hand, you got the right to do it, but on the other hand, how it can affect your career is a different matter. And if you are trying to do it to publicize yourself, then that's basically kind of your calculation to make on whether the pros and cons are worth it. You can compare it to Colin Kaepernick, and he decided to take a stand on the police brutality and the kneeling and things like that, and the reactions are mixed. Nobody's putting him in jail for what he did, but that doesn't necessarily help his popularity either. So I see a differentiation between free speech and the right to do it versus, yeah, but it could still affect your career. So, I talk about those there. So, that issue there. So, if you wanted to visit this link, just right there, movietvtechgeeks.com, keywords Jim Carrey, Kathy Griffin, Smothers Brothers, flashback. So, that should be Smothers, not my fault. Okay, thanks, bye bye.